Hello, I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
And I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times. Natasha, do you remember when we had to churn out a new editorial column on a new topic each week for
Oh,
old print issues?
oh yeah. Each
Okay.
week. Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I remember each month or every other month was hard enough, but how did we do it each
Remember?
week?
Yeah, because we were doing 42 issues,
43, yeah.
43. So when we moved away from print, I remember doing some rough math to figure out how many words we wrote just for those weekly columns over a 5 year period. Again,
Oh,
when we were
wow.
doing 43 issues a year. So between the two of us,
Right.
how many words do you think we wrote? Again, this was a rough estimate.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I guess my guess would be probably upwards of 100,000 at least. If you
Now,
checked or okay, no,
well,
probably I'm
no,
horrible at guessing, like, I'm not the person to guess, like, marbles in a jar or anything like that, so
no,
please ignore my guess.
this was
It's gonna be wrong.
this was a lot. It was a lot.
Okay, what was it?
So the rough estimate of just one of us for those issues for 5 years was around 210,000 words.
Oh my
So between the two of us, 400,
wow. What
100,000 billion words.
what were we saying? It's like,
I don't even
what
want to look
what were we
back.
even talking about? I have no idea.
I don't either.
I mean, at the time, I think it was fine, but yeah, that is a lot. That is insane.
Yes. So
Yeah,
I'm bringing this up because I don't necessarily miss writing those at all, but just on occasion I do. And in this case, I want to do a very short editorial on here in this intro about this topic: credit union bank branch purchases. Can you guys give me about 30 seconds on this?
sure.
Okay. Zach, you can include old man ranting music if we have that.
I will see what I can find.
Uh, okay. Here's my quick editorial. Hey, independent community bankers of America, back off. Relax a little bit, will ya? Your world is not crumbling around you because 16 credit unions this year have announced bank purchases. Your political fear mongering that you're pitching to politicians is garbage, and sadly, it's working. You want to use these, 35, 40 examples of credit unions buying big branches over the past 6 years to raise alarms in Congress to remove the credit union tax exempt status? Hey, a lot of those banks were in trouble, they were losing money, weren't properly serving their customers or communities, and the credit unions stepped in to one, bail these people out, aka you, and two, the credit unions are able to grow their cooperative culture and business in those communities you failed. That is what I think you are ticked off about. So stop Fox Newsing this issue and trying to create a tabloid level nuclear bomb threat that doesn't exist. You are the problem, your business model is failing, and instead of fixing it, you're trying to take down the smallest financial segment in our country just because you can. It doesn't make you a genius, it just makes you a bully. There.
Yeah.
I did that in less than 200 words.
Good job. Yeah, well, you just added 200 words, I guess, to our big tally. But yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, get a grip. I would say to them, get a grip.
It is out of hand. Next time, I think my next editorial will be to complain about e-bikes. God, I hate those. Anyway, let's start the show. Welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we're talking with David Tuyo. He's president and CEO of University Credit Union in sunny Los Angeles. David has written several editorials for us on topics over the years like remote work and how credit unions can give back to their communities. So we're excited to finally meet him, get to know him, get him on the line to share a bunch of different stories. He's going to be talking about his thoughts on some of the topics he's previously written about over the years, as well as how his credit union is leveraging AI. First up, let's take a break from the week. Check in with Natasha. Head,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Okay.
Just sweating in this recording closet as I do.
Oh boy.
No,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Blasting the ICBA, which is a always welcomed, I suppose.
You know what? It's easy to do.
Yeah, I would agree. They become a lot more aggressive sounding lately, or just a lot more pissed off.
Well, I think they've latched on to a talking point that works
I guess.
with their not constituents, but the lawmakers that they're dealing with.
Must
And
be.
again, it
Right.
is catching on, and America's credit unions and others are like, "Oh crap, this is kind of working." So
Right, yeah.
again,
Well
credit unions are on the defensive instead of the offensive.
well, I guess we'll be following that. Yeah, see how that plays out. I'm sure the credit unions will
Yeah.
continue to step up.
All right, let's
Yeah.
talk about movies, TV shows really quick. What'd you
Sure.
watch this past week?
Yeah, so I had just spoke about last podcast, came back from my trip, so just a lot of catch up on just a whole bunch of stuff I missed. So I think
Yeah.
sadly, I think I spent, I want to say about 6 hours just watching this 90-day happily ever after tell all. Really
Okay.
stupid. Like I think I lost several brain cells after that.
Right.
Yeah, catching up on some shows like 2020 that I missed. There's one I wanted to mention that I just started this week
Hmm.
on Hulu. It's another reality show. It's called Inmate to Roommate. And this
Uh,
show is just it's hysterical. It's probably not supposed to be hysterical, but it's like someone who was, incarcerated, they're getting out of prison, and
yeah.
then they don't have anywhere to go, so it's like a person and it's usually someone who knows them, like, through a family member or whatever, or
Hmm.
in some cases, it's like someone they started, like, at writing to them through, like, a pen pal program, but they're moving the inmate in as a roommate and then all of the chaos that ensues. So that's been a new one, kind of been sort of into. I mean, it's fine. It's good, like, background, when you're just trying to chill out in the evening, so
I learn
that's been a new
something
one.
new every time you talk about your shows. I'm like, I didn't know these things existed.
Apparently, yeah, I guess there's a crime-related well, this isn't really true crime per se, but for everything, so
Hmm.
that's my new one.
Excellent.
Yeah, what about you? I know you, are there a couple other movies you wanted to mention out of your list of the 13 you went through when I was gone?
Oh, I mean, I will say overall, I watched a bunch of giallo movies, which are 1970s mainly Italian thriller
Oh, right,
movies.
yeah, you mentioned
So look it up, giallo. They're crazy movies. I'm not going to go into that necessarily. Maybe I'll bring up some other ones another time. But I wanted to say, because now we're in October,
Right,
I rewatched a couple of horror movies that I've seen the past couple of years. One was Evil Dead Rise,
okay,
2023. Rewatch that. It's kind of a fun time. It's
really?
pretty gross at times.
Okay, what's the premise of that? Like, what's the story?
Well, if you follow the Evil Dead series of movies, it's kind of the same things, just in different locations. It's about a spirit, that takes over and, haunting. And it's super gory. It's crazy. I believe this movie had the record amount of fake blood ever used on a movie.
Oh, wow.
It's literally raining blood.
Raining blood, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, okay.
It's
Like
it's
Carrie, like
nuts.
the like the
Yeah,
pig
but
blood raining down?
yeah,
Yeah.
but a lot more. It's a
Yeah.
really fun watch, and I would suggest watching it. The other one I revisited a few days ago was an old 1977 movie called House.
Hmm.
It's an old Japanese horror movie, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
more like Scooby Doo level scary.
Oh.
It's that silly,
Oh,
and it's
really? So it's
yeah.
not okay. Because I was gonna say, I mean, the Japanese horror seems like it's an interesting genre. I did enjoy the
Yeah.
Ringu, which is the
Oh,
original Ring,
yeah.
but, was this one
That
not as wasn't as scary, is that how you say?
no,
Okay. I'll
no.
probably skip it
It
then.
is comically again, I think Scooby Doo is the best way to put it. It's crazy.
Okay.
It's very strange, but the director has said basically he got all the ideas from his teenage daughter what to do in the movie, and you can tell
Okay.
it's pretty great.
For a
It's funny.
teenage mind
Yeah.
more.
It's
Okay.
on Criterion and HBO, I believe.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
if you want to watch it.
Yeah, well, with us being in October, I'm sure there'll be lots more
Yep.
horror movie, of course, discussions coming up,
Yes,
so
yes.
I have to start thinking about that. I love when they come out with the new horror movie, for Halloween, seeing
Mhm.
what they put up there and
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of planning what we're gonna watch, so that'll
Yep.
be fun. Excited. Alright, well, let's move on to our interview. We had a
Let's.
great conversation with David Tuyo. As you mentioned, we had
Mhm.
never talked with him before. He was a really nice guy. We got to know a little bit just about him and his background, and one thing that was really fascinating is I had no idea that he was a pro golfer in the
Right?
past
I
before
had
he
no
started.
clue.
Yeah. before he started his financial career.
Yeah.
Says he still is an avid golfer today.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we got to know him a bit more. He gave us also some really great insights into how his credit union is using AI, plans for
Mhm.
AI in the future. Really, and it sounds like he's really embracing it throughout the whole organization. He goes into
Yeah.
detail about that. Also talks a lot about remote work. And one point of that is it's really helping his LA based employees save, what does he say, like 3 hours a day they would have been sitting in traffic
Oh,
otherwise.
yeah. Yeah,
So
it's he goes over some crazy stats. It's really, really
yeah,
interesting.
it made me really be thankful that I'm no longer
Mhm.
commuting somewhere in LA. Those were no
Yeah.
thank you, never again. Anyway, so yeah, we talk about a variety of things with him, had a really great time, and we have all that coming up next.
Hey, listeners, I want to tell you about our exclusive editorial product for subscribers only called the Executive Briefing. If you haven't heard about it, I'll explain. This is a monthly newsletter available by subscription only and is comprised of exclusive editorial content and analysis of credit union data, trends, and news, information you won't find online because we don't put it there. It's only available to subscribers. I've said that enough. I'm moving on. You will get access to this content only in your inbox to help grow your organization, better serve your members. In September, for instance, we analyzed the AI tools used by credit unions. It was fascinating. In October, we're breaking down the overdraft and NSFB landscape happening in the industry and what impact it's having on credit union. To subscribe, go to cutimes.com/subscribe. That's cutimes.com/subscribe. It's one of the new ways we're expanding our CU Times digital world for you, the executive briefing at cutimes.com/subscribe.
Joining us in the virtual studio today is David Tuyo, President and CEO at University Credit Union in Los Angeles. David, hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me and excited to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great to meet you and happy to have you. All right, so to start us off here, just want to get a little more background on you for our listeners here and for us since this is our first time meeting. So, David, can you just share with us a little about how you became involved in the credit union industry, just in the industry overall, and then also a little bit about your journey to becoming CEO of University Credit Union?
Yeah, it's a great question. A good way to start. My journey is probably very similar to everybody else. I ended up in the credit union industry as far as being nonlinear. And so when I was
Sure.
an undergrad, my banking professor took us to visit a local credit union. And so
Mm,
that was actually my first experience with a credit union was. Did not give it much thought at the time. I viewed it the same as a bank. And
of course, yeah.
but we went through the process of the teller line and back office and whatnot, and that credit union is still around today. It actually is University of South Alabama's credit union, but I actually went to University of
Mm,
Mobile. But it was a very interesting time. After graduating, I'd won a national championship playing golf and wanted to
oh,
give myself a chance at playing professionally.
oh, wow.
That lasted about a year, and
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah.
after a year of traveling and I had an injury to my wrist that really kind of kept me from giving it a go,
Mm,
I decided to become a financial advisor. I had an
mm,
undergraduate degree in finance. I'd always been passionate about helping others. I'd fallen in love with the capital markets from the time I was in sixth grade. And so we did this project about Xerox at the time. And this is before the internet. So I had to write a letter to Xerox requesting an report. They sent it back. And not to bore you with that story, but that's where my love for finance started.
oh, wow.
Moving from that, I got recruited by a company that I'd never heard of. It was a company that was wholesale bank for credit unions called Southeast
Mhm.
Corporate. And there I was a financial strategist, worked with about 450 different credit unions across the country on asset liability management, investment services, balance sheet optimization, and a variety in strategic planning. From there, went on to work at another bank, a broker dealer, then came back to credit unions. When I was at the bank and the broker dealer, I was working with credit unions, pension funds, banks, and insurance companies. And I was on the road a lot. And at the time we just had our first daughter, and I wanted to be a dad more than a paycheck.
Mhm.
Mm,
And so one of
yeah.
my credit union clients said, "Hey, I have a CFO opening. Do you want to come be our CFO?" And I said, "Well, I'm really good with finance, comfortable with the leadership side of things, but I'm probably going to struggle a little bit. And as I haven't had any accounting work since college." And so he was nice enough to say, "Look, I'll teach you. We'll walk through the numbers." And he was a former examiner and a CPA. And so he was able to really teach me the ropes around that, which I'm very grateful
Mm,
for. And from there, went on to EVP, interim CEO. I had a really cool title when I was in Miami where I was CFO and COO. So I was
Mm.
kind of like a junior CEO in waiting. And that's when University Credit Union called and asked if I'd be interested in interviewing for the position in Los Angeles.
I had
oh,
no
wow.
idea you were down in Mobile. I lived as a kid down in Fort Walton Beach. Florida. We would go to Mobile all the time.
Yeah, it's where Mardi Gras originated. It's a very
Yep.
family friendly Mardi Gras. It's not like the beads and the craziness that happen in other areas, but
Yeah.
it's a great city.
Really?
I grew up in North Alabama, so I actually grew up in Decatur, Alabama,
Decatur.
by
Sure.
Huntsville. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we would go down to you. You came to Mobile when I was there. We came towards your way to to go to those beautiful white sand beaches.
Sure. For Walton Beach. We can talk about this later on in the pod here. We have some personal questions that we will ask. But I want to ask you now that you're in this position, that you've been at, how long you've been now CEO of university?
Going on 8 years.
8 years. Okay. So what would you say is different about leading a university community centered credit union from leading a credit union that doesn't focus on that type population?
Yeah, it's great. So we're kind of a old school throwback if you think about it. I
Hmm.
mean, we're kind of like the Navy Fed, but for universities, not so much for defense, but it is something that we do pretty well. We were with universities up and down the coast in California and across the United States from Georgia and Texas, but primarily in California.
Hmm.
But when you
Mhm.
look at universities, they're very much like a small community, and you may have very rural cities, right? And so that might be like a
Yep.
small university, but you also have your metropolitan areas that's gonna be like a large university. And so when you look at UCLA, there's at least 125,000 people on campus every single day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And every single day, you have people working in food service, you have people working in police, and have people working in fire, you have people working in the hospital and healthcare services. And so it's very much like, and you have people in economic development and advancement. And so it's very much like a normal city, just on a smaller scale. So all the same skills and strategies that work in a community typically work at a university as well, with some small differences. I think those differences really are around the expectation on university campus, because you're typically dealing with younger, more mobile, more digitally native type
Hmm.
of
Mhm.
individuals, or those that are teaching it, right? One or the
Yep.
other. The expectation is higher and the feedback is going to be continuous and very aggressive. You think about how on campus, when people don't like things, they protest, they
Yep.
organize, and so those things are all things you have to understand and work through. And so when you execute, you have to be really operating at a higher level than, because if there are mistakes or errors, there could be blowback in a very large
Oh,
scale
yeah.
way that could affect your brand, it could affect your business. And so I feel like our team does a fantastic job in making sure that we work into the details and not just stay high level, but actually making sure that every part of our member journeys, member experiences are really well thought out and well curated.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that's kind of just a few things that might be a little bit different, kind of a seg based model, but also when you work with universities, you are working with a very unique community, both on campus and then, of course, away, as you deal with alumni that have
Yeah.
moved away.
Sure.
Although in California, 2/3 of all alumni stay within an hour's drive of the university where they graduate from.
Oh,
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Well, that kind of goes into my next question. And now I know you just mentioned that you're not specific to universities in California, so you do serve some other communities nationwide. You would say you're more leaning towards California and the Los Angeles area. Is that what you would say for the university communities that you serve, percentage wise?
The majority of our business is in Southern California for sure. But we
Okay.
do, we work with UC Davis in Northern California, St. Mary's College up in Northern California, Santa Clara University in Northern California, Chabot and Las Positas Community Colleges in Northern California. So we have a nice diverse base, whether it's Northern California or Southern California. But yes, you are correct in assuming that the
Right.
majority of our business is in Southern California, because we were pretty much just UCLA for the majority of our 74 years.
mm,
Okay, so it started that. Okay. So what would you say are some of the unique needs when you just look at, let's say, the Southern California university communities in comparison to perhaps other more rural university communities nationwide? I actually spent a lot of time living in LA. I know it can be a very transient city a lot of times, although you kind of debunk that because you said that people stay within an hour of their university, which is good. But also, cost of living is obviously an issue in Southern California, Northern as well. So I was curious, are there some unique things that you would say your membership needs that you're working to address in comparison perhaps to other states and other universities in the country?
You did hit the nail on the head when it comes to the cost of living in California in
Hmm.
general, in particular Southern California. It is extremely expensive. I moved here from Miami. Miami was the eighth most expensive market in the country. And when I sold my house and bought my house here for a house that was smaller and in a very traditional neighborhood here versus what
Right.
I had in Miami, we paid twice as much for our home here as what we paid in Miami. So it,
mm.
it is a real
Sure.
concern.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about those that live in Southern California, there's two things that come to mind for me, and that's traffic and time. One there's too much of, and the other one there's not enough of. And so I think, when you look at what our members need in Southern California, typically it's digital, 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 and virtual, virtual, virtual.
Mhm.
People don't have time to
Right.
run by a bank branch or a credit union branch. They don't have time to set up time to drive. Because if you look at, for instance, I drove 3 miles Tuesday night to go to an industry dinner with the university community. And it took me, for 3 miles, it took me 37 minutes.
Oh, everyone's so jealous and they wish they lived in LA, right? I get it. I've done a lot of that as well. It's awful.
LA's number one in a lot of things. Traffic is one of them. And there's many great things about living in Southern California. A lot of things we love. However, when you think about that pressure, how does that affect your members? How does that affect their lives? They don't have time to say, okay, look, at lunch, I'm going to run down and swing by the credit union, because there's not enough time. When we
Yeah.
look at traffic and the potential variables that could affect that, and then all of a sudden you're stressed, you're rushed, and then that experience is not great. So if we can serve them where they're at, not just in life from an economic perspective, but also physically. So, when we look at virtual appointments and we look at how to serve them from an autonomous perspective and self-service channels within our digital banking experience, that's really what people in Southern California need. I think, that's probably something that even people in rural and everywhere else might enjoy as well. The convenience of not having to go into a traditional legacy branch and be able to do everything self-serve within their iPhone or even their
Mhm.
iPad or whatever device they choose to use.
Let's talk about some of the challenges despite time and traffic, but that plays into it. Because Natasha, I remember how when you lived in LA, you would complain about, I got to go to the dentist. I'll be back in 7 hours. But
Pretty much,
David,
yeah.
I want to ask about in what capacity UCU is currently using AI tools.
Mm.
And how are you using it? What kind of problems are these tools solving for?
Yeah, we love AI at our organization. It didn't start that way, but it's something that we definitely embrace today. I think as a first mover in the industry or close to it around AI over 4.5 years ago, we use AI today for every component of member service, whether
Hmm.
it's when you call into University Creighton,
Hmm.
you're talking to AI. When you work with us online, you're talking to AI. When you're in our mobile banking app, you're talking to AI. When you're doing a loan applications, you're working with AI.
Hmm.
When you fill out a new membership application, you're talking to AI. So we
Okay.
solve for a lot of things, both for the business and for our member owners. And so one of the biggest
Mhm.
challenges as a small organization, we're only about 1.2 billion in assets, is how do we keep up with the economies of scale of the likes of a JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America at $2 trillion
Yeah.
in size, where they're investing $4 billion annually into their technology budget. And so AI, I think, is a great tool for that. We've been able to scale at levels
Mhm.
that we weren't before. When I crossed $1 billion with the credit union I worked for, it's been 15 years ago now, we had 301 employees.
Wow.
We crossed over with less than 100. And so it was a different business model, but AI can help you scale in a way. I think it does flatten the playing field a little bit for those
Mm.
that can access AI from a tools perspective. And then you think about 24/7, 365 service to your member owners. That's something that with robust accuracy, our bots and our AI tools are running about 98.98% accurate. Now, if we roll out something new the first day, it does drop to around 70, 75%.
Sure.
But for the most part, we're running, on any given time around 98 to 99% accuracy levels, and which is just outstanding. I mean, our team is
Yeah.
phenomenal. We have some of the most amazing people working at University Credit Union, and we're not that accurate. So I think
Mhm.
that's something to be said. We look at employee augmentation as well.
Mhm.
So we have a bot that is internal. Of course, our member facing
Mhm.
AI tools we call Royce. Royce is where our credit union was founded. It's Royce Hall on campus at UCLA. Our papers were signed in that hall, and so that's how we came up with
Oh.
that particular name. For the internal facing AI tools that we use, somebody in accounting actually named it, very creative, and when we call it Uni, you and I can do anything. And so
Aw.
that's Yes,
Oh, that's
and
cute. That's
so a great
perfect.
way to do that. And so we have now, augmented employees. And so when you think about our remote work environment, in the old days, we would be sitting next to each other. We might listen to somebody sitting next to us. We could learn from them, or if we had a problem, a supervisor was nearby that we could help support us. And that doesn't exist in the work from
Mhm.
anywhere environment. So we wanted to make sure our team was supported in a very fast, efficient manner. And so Uni's been a great tool for that. We also use AI for decisioning. So when you look at loan decisions on the consumer side, how does that look? And so it's been a great support for us as we continue to move our automation of decision making further up the chain, trying to get to that 70, 75% automation level so that our team can spend more time with members that need our help in working through maybe some more challenging circumstances. We use it for marketing and communications, and we also use it for presentations. So just a variety of ways. AI is throughout the organization. When we first launched,
Wow.
though, we did have some fear because we started in the contact center, and people had fear about their jobs, and we wanted to make
Yeah.
sure we addressed that. So we moved on to an initiative called Automate and Elevate. And now, after a short
Hmm.
period of time, everybody wants a bot. It doesn't matter what
Oh,
everybody
okay,
wants AI
good. You
tools,
sold it.
and they see the benefits and how it can really make an impact and make their jobs and lives easier, so they can focus on more the sophisticated parts of our business.
Nice, nice. Okay, and I want to talk more about the remote work aspect a little later on, but what's kind of on your roadmap for the future with AI? I mean, it sounds like you have it implemented pretty robustly throughout the organization in different business areas, but what are you looking at? Like, how do you think it can help you even more in the future when you look at planning ahead for, maybe next year or even, looking, let's say, 5 to 10 years in the future, if you're still leading the credit union at
I,
that
I
point,
hope
or
so, but
what do you what do those yeah, what do those conversations look like talking about, like, the future of AI and how it
I
can
think,
help you?
right now we were seeing breach after breach after breach. Whether it's USAA or other
Mm,
banks or and credit unions, cybersecurity issues are a challenge that keep us all up at night, every night. I think in our industry, as I talk to my peers across the U.S., and so we've been trying to look at how can we use AI to better identify our members? How can
Mhm.
we use AI to
mhm,
manage risk, reduce fraud? How can we use AI to automate our work? And then how can we use AI to battle other AI, right? So when you look at fraudulent attempts
mm,
now, people used to be able to see the phishing emails pretty easily because there was errors and whatnot. But now cyber criminals are dropping their emails into AI, or they're asking AI to create those emails as phishing scams, and then they send them out and they're flawless. There's no more spelling errors, there's no
mhm.
more grammatical or
No more
English.
Nigerian princes.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
we need that as well. And I think, and then identifying the members better, that's gonna we actually have that in the works that will go live in November timeframe. And then we have AI autonomous banking, and I think that's gonna be within the next 12 months. And I am very excited
Mm,
about that initiative, because it's account aggregation meets financial advice, meets
Hmm.
robo advisors, meets cross-selling, upselling, meets prescriptive and predictive analytics to better predict the next best product for your members, all
Wow.
those things in one
mm.
big package. And so we're very excited about the future there as well.
Nice. Okay. And then also on AI, you mentioned earlier the use of the bots and that members, whenever they call in, they're always talking to an AI. How do you kind of balance that with also making sure they feel like they're getting a human touch, which I think is something that's important to a lot of credit unions, having it feel personal. Is that something that you talk about in the credit union? How do you make sure that the human touch isn't lost, I guess, when you're using AI so much for communication?
5 years ago, we started right off the bat and making sure that you're humanizing the experience, if you would. The big thing around that was, when the software engineers are working on programming the initial set of learning for the knowledge base for the bot, and then eventually machine learning will kick in, they'll learn over time and expand. But the first question was, instead of saying, how can I help you? Or, what are your issues today? How can we better serve you? Those kinds of things. The first question that the software engineers wanted to ask was, what is your inquiry?
Hmm.
And now, being from the Huntsville, Alabama area, that's not how I speak. I don't I don't run into people and say, "Hey, what is your inquiry today?" And so, and also, like, versus, can I apply online? How do I apply? All those different questions. We want to make sure that we use vernacular that actually our team uses, and it represents our brand. And I think
Hmm.
whether you're here in Southern California or you're in Alabama, I think you can use terms that make it a little bit easier as far as accepting that AI experience. And the technology has gotten significantly better over time. I mean, even today, I was on Corn Ferry's website. I was looking for an article about retirees coming back to the workplace. And this is a big trend that we're seeing.
Mhm.
And a large percentage of retirees are coming back to workplace, either part time or full time. And I think that that's very interesting. So I want to read more about that particular research that
Hmm.
Corn Ferry put out. And there's a bot on their website, it's a little chat bot. And, I said, it asked me a question about, trying to upsell me or cross sell me into a subscription. I said, no, I'm good. I'm just looking for this article. And then it said, no problem. I thought that was an
Nice.
example and a great experience. Just those little things that make it a little bit easier. And then finally, I think the thing that we made a mistake on early on was we didn't make it as easy as it could have been to get to a live agent or one of our
Uh,
coaches. And so
right.
that experience now is significantly easier. If somebody doesn't want to talk to a bot and they want to get to a person right away, they can. It's very easy for them. All they do is say agent, rep, any synonym with those particular
Yeah.
titles, and it'll go to a live agent right off the bat. But still, I mean, the number one issue that people are still calling into the credit union, even though we have a great online banking experience and a very highly rated mobile banking application for our member owners, they're still calling for balance.
Yeah. Huh.
Number one.
Hmm.
And so, those kinds of calls are easily automated. The tools are fantastic. And our members have responded very positively to that because that's still the majority of the phone calls. Now, when it gets into, hey, I want to apply for a mortgage, or I have a question about my capacity of how much of mortgage I can buy, maybe they want to talk to a mortgage specialist. In that case, they ask for that and go straight to that particular department. And one of our team members will assist the member in their needs.
David, I can't applaud you enough for doing that, for making it easier to get out of that loop. Natasha and producer Zach both know how much I hate that loop, and I've been stuck in that loop. We have an episode about that, actually, and me complaining about
Yeah.
Verizon. Verizon, I still hate you. Okay, so, and
Don't be like
So funny.
Verizon.
also in the vernacular piece, I think that is also a very interesting touch, because you and I apparently both grew up down south, and my vernacular I was thinking would be, from where I'm from, would be, what can I do you for? That would be the AI from where I grew up. Okay, so moving on out of AI, David, I want to ask, you have written and been outspoken about your support of remote work, and have said that University Credit Union has been a remote first credit union for the past 4 years. First, is your credit union still operating in a remote work environment?
Yes.
Okay. And what percentage of the employees are fully remote?
Yeah, good question. We've been operating remote since March of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
so 4.5 years now, and we have 80% of our workforce that's working from home 100% of the time.
Yeah.
We have
Wow.
10% of our team is working in some hybrid fashion,
Yeah.
and then 10% are
Mhm.
on site full time.
Okay. So, second, what are some of the best practices you follow and that you've learned in the past 4.5 years to ensure employees stay productive and engaged while working remote?
Yeah, so this is where it gets really interesting. I think
Yeah.
every culture of every credit union, although we do the similar things, we are all very different from one another. So our best practices started with what are we going to do? How do we want to move? And then we started paying attention to what other organizations have done in the past. There's been remote work companies for a very long time. You
Mm-hmm.
think about IBM and some very large companies as well. And many have gone back to in person again, too. I think 70% of the companies out there have recalled employees.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, we want to focus on a few different things. How do we maintain our culture? How do we maintain and support our team members? And how do we make sure that we're managing productivity to make sure that the business is staying productive and moving forward on behalf of our member owners?
Yeah.
How do we make sure we ensure alignment? How do we make sure that our KPIs and our goals and the development of our team to reach those KPIs and goals are being done in a timely manner? How do we make sure that our team is enjoying the workplace and still highly engaged in the cause and the purpose of
Mm-hmm.
UCU? And then finally, we want to make sure that in a remote environment, sometimes you don't get that good gas that's needed for mental and physical health. And
Yeah.
so we want to make sure that our team is in a very good spot from that perspective. And so we answer all those questions. I think if you answer those questions, you're going to be in a best practice type of environment,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're in person or remote. And so for us, we launched software that manages and reviews productivity. And so that was a bit of a contentious move at the executive level.
Yeah.
As we made that move, we discovered that some of our teams departments were working at higher levels than what it was showing up on their time cards and on the overtime reporting.
Mm-hmm.
So typically what we look at is we try to
Hmm.
look at the hours worked, then we look at the overtime. If there's overtime starting to happen, then we look at, okay, look, can we outsource temporarily? Is this a temporary problem or is it a permanent issue?
Yeah.
We need to hire more team members, right? We don't want to overwork anybody. And so the
Mhm.
software immediately showed that for us, and we were able to add more staff. And that really gave buy-in across the organization because it wasn't Big Brother watching every little thing I do. It was, hey, how do we optimize the workforce and productivity and make sure that everybody has their best life, so to speak? And so that worked out really
Yeah.
well. Alignment wise, we have a software tool that we use, and it ensures that we have bottom up feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And so allows us to really inform strategy from the entire organization. Everybody has a voice in what we're doing. And then we can also make sure that the coaches are doing their jobs, developing their teams, and continue to ensure work towards KPIs that we have set up in 13-week sprints. So just a few things that we have there, but the surveys were big around getting subjective feedback and
Mm-hmm.
making sure we understood how our employees are feeling, what they're going through, what the challenges they're having in this environment, also what they like and what they love. And that's an important part too.
Yeah.
Let's do more of that. Let's do less of the things you
Exactly.
don't like. And so these are the things that we have worked through, and we have a nice cadence now. And the team does a great job in working through these issues. Our engagement levels have never been higher. We're using a variety of different, we continue to change the surveys because the scores were just too high. And we're like, no, we need better feedback. So we're asking different questions and getting further into the business to find out how can we better support our team and
Yeah.
increase their engagement. And so couldn't say enough about the team of
Mm.
champions we have. We're a small team, but we're a fierce team. And I think, we always punch above our weight class.
Great.
And now, so with your remote team, are they all based also in Southern California, or has being remote enabled you to hire talent that's based like outside of the state and work remote from there?
Thank you so much for asking that. We have
Oh,
had tremendous, I have story after story. I could talk to you for hours about this, but
mm,
originally we had team members that were driving 3 hours to come to work. We had van pools that were coming back and forth, and those are all gone now. And our team's living their best life. We have, one of my favorite stories. We have a single mom that came to us and said, "Hey, I want to buy a house, but I can't afford one in California." So, she moved to Texas 3 years ago and bought a
mhm.
home. She's now a homeowner, and
Oh,
she's been promoted 3 times. This is
oh
this is a great
wow.
Yeah,
story since then. So
worked out
um,
well, yeah.
recruiting wise, we don't have the problem that others have about recruiting or retaining talent.
Mhm.
We had this one employee that started out in Wyoming, and then she referred another one, and she referred another one. And people really enjoy the freedom of not having that hour commute every day and being empowered and entrusted to just do a good job with it. Not somebody just standing over you. You know what I mean? And so it's been a great environment for us. And we now have employees in 18 different states.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, on our executive team, there's 6 people. Of the 6 people on the executive team, we live in 3 different states, soon to be 4 different states.
Wow.
Wow, okay. Well, also, I really appreciate that you're doing that because as you were talking, I was thinking back to I work for a credit union in the Southern California area. I won't say which one, but I practically had to beg to go remote 1 day a week because I was commuting about 2 hours each way, hour and a half, 2 hours, and I would just get to work exhausted, and then you're bombarded with all this other stuff. But this was before the pandemic. So this was like in 2013, 14. So I think, yeah, now it's a lot more normalized.
You were just a first mover. You were just ahead of your time.
I guess so, yeah. It was, yeah, but it was very much like, I don't know, it was like such a big concern to have someone remote and so like unheard of at the time. But yeah, it's crazy how things changed so drastically with the pandemic. And just one more quick follow-up question on the remote work at UCU. So I'm assuming in March 2020, when you went remote, it was a result of the pandemic, right? Like you weren't planning to. And was it like thinking, oh, this would just be temporary at first? And then later on, did it become a thing where, hey, this is working, let's do this permanently? So I was curious, like, at what point did you decide, oh, let's make this more a permanent thing instead of just like temporary to respond to the pandemic?
Yeah, I think for us, we're a little bit different in that because we were battling this already, we had worked with, kind of a framework from Deloitte. They had put out a paper in 2019 called The Distributed Workforce. And
Mm.
we were very interested in this because of the fact that we had so many employees that were driving such large amounts of time, not miles so much, but time. And it was really not being the best quality of life. And we did have turnover because of that. And so we had to figure out how we were going to address it. So in 2019, we had a plan to go remote. We had been looking at other operation centers. And as you know, to buy another building in the Los Angeles area, even in the Valley, you're still talking about another somewhere between 15 and $30 million outlay. And so we were looking at these alternatives. And honestly, I had too many reservations about pulling that trigger. So we never really went forward with it. We were prepared for it. If that was an option, we were going to continue to look at technology and how we could get there, but it wasn't anything that we were rushing into. And then the pandemic
Mhm.
happened in March. And as soon as we could get all the surfaces and on the laptops, because that was one thing
Yeah.
back then, we were ordering 200 and 300 laptops so that we could get 30. And
Yep.
so we were going to every single store, the Apple store, the Best Buy, anywhere we get our hands on a mobile device that would work with our systems. And,
Yeah.
and so long story short, we went live in March. And I would say probably sometime in the latter half of that year, we decided that we were going to make sure that made this permanent and something that we're going to go forward with.
Okay.
We had a lot of things that we were nervous about: culture, how people would react,
Hmm.
productivity, a variety of things. But the remote work really helped us, and AI too, right? So AI made a big difference at that time. We had COVID outbreak here in LA, and
Mhm.
before we had our employees that were more diverse in their locations, we got hit where 75% of our call center was out because they
Oh,
all
wow.
were
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID at the same time. And so now there's even disaster recovery and business continuity planning benefits from
Mhm.
our business model, in addition to just high levels of quality of life for our team.
Sure. Yeah.
Last quick question before we get on to the final segment. I want to ask about community very quickly. I know recently I saw a photo of you shooting a t-shirt cannon, but I think you were at some university event. What are some unique ways University Credit Union is giving back to its community as we are now heading into the 2024 holiday season?
Yeah, I think there's two types, right, of give back. One is financially, and the second is for my time. And I would argue the time is worth more than money, and spending
Yeah.
time helping people be successful on campus. Some of the things we do a lot with children's hospitals, for each one of our universities, majority of our universities have a health system attached to them. And so we do a lot of good work around the children's hospitals at each one of those health systems.
Hmm.
It could be book toy drives and also being on site to participate and help children that are being infected one way or another to have a little bit better life, whether it's story
Yeah.
times and just different things that we do to help support. There's never enough volunteers, right? That's one thing that
Right.
everybody's going to tell you. And so we try to spend our time that way. Financially, scholarships for anyone and every position you can think of on campus. Events too, as well, like supporting not just about UCU, but also about just events that are important to our university partners. At LMU, they have a very large event called Think Pink, and it's all about breast cancer, and so
Mhm.
those things as well. And so my family's been touched by that, and so I spend a lot of time in that endeavor as well. Those are just a variety of ways that we give back, and very similar to all of our different Creighton's. I think Creighton's doing an amazing job across the country supporting and giving back to those that we're so fortunate to serve.
Mhm.
Well, thank you to you and your teams. Bravo.
Absolutely. Okay, David, so let's go ahead and move on to the second part of our interview. This part is all about you. Are you ready?
I'm never ready to talk about me, but yes.
Okay, well, all right, we'll try. So, this first question, I think you actually answered it earlier, but I'll just ask you again. What is your hometown?
Technically, I was born in Flint, Michigan, where
Okay.
but I was raised in Decatur, Alabama, and
Okay.
that's what I call home.
Okay, great. And then how long have you been in the LA area?
8 years.
8
So
years. Okay.
moved from the
Okay.
southeast to come to this position, and
Yeah. It's a big difference. Yeah. So, do you ever go back to Alabama to visit?
yeah, our parents are still there. My wife's parents are in Mobile, and my
Oh, okay.
parents are in the Gulf Shores area.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
spent a lot of
Beautiful.
time over there, and love getting back to the southeast. It's kind of where we grew up, and so it's
Yeah.
always great to give that experience back to our kids, and
Yeah.
of course visit family.
Did you guys ever go to Bellingrath Gardens?
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely.
God, my mom used to love going to that
Well,
place.
especially around holidays, they do such
Yeah,
great programming around the holiday season with changing up the gardens and adding lights, and just it's a different
sure.
level in my opinion.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is
Haven't been in years, but it was gorgeous back then.
still there.
So, as a Los Angelino for 8 years, what do you think is the biggest misconception that non Los Angelinos have about living in LA?
Yeah, so when we're living in a tropical paradise in Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, and as I tell my wife, that like, hey, I'm interviewing for this job in Los Angeles, she's like, no, you're not. And I think when you think about LA, you think about concrete jungle. You
Mhm.
Sure.
think about some of the negative things that you see across the press, whether it's
Yeah.
crime and whatnot, graffiti and things. But when you get here, it really is a beautiful place. You have
Mhm.
18 million people in the greater LA area, and so you can find there's some group here that you're going to fit in
Mhm.
with. But even as you get outside the city, like we're headquartered in Westwood, we're sandwiched between Santa Monica, which is a beach community, and
Mhm.
Beverly Hills. And then, we live in the northwest part of the county, and we see horses walk down the sidewalks. We live in very much a rural area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think you're in Mayberry. At the same time, we have a Waymo car driving down the street too. So it's a different experience.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I really think it's the diversity, and people like to travel to other countries and all that, but there's so many different ethnic groups where you can get like, authentic food from
Oh,
anywhere and not even have to travel. It's like, you can take a vacation just within the county. So
so true.
yeah, it's great. So also, having lived in LA for the past 8 years, I know most people have their celebrity story, like someone you met or saw. So I was gonna ask if you have any, like, fun celebrity meeting or celebrity sighting stories to share from the past 8 years?
I mean, when you're in LA, it's going to happen. You're gonna bump into people all the time. I don't really have one that sticks out so much. I mean, on the plane, you're usually bumping up next to somebody.
Yeah.
I got
Hmm.
to sit next to a couple of the actors from Glee, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw Magic Johnson when I first moved here. I was renting down by the office, and I was out for a run, and I saw Magic Johnson going for a walk. And growing up
Mhm.
as somebody that's a huge Magic Johnson fan, it's
Sure.
kind of great to
Yeah.
see him. And then I'm an avid golfer, and so I play golf with many of the people that you see, a lot of actors,
Yeah.
comedians
Great.
that you'd recognize. So everybody personas from Seinfeld to
Nice.
more modern day characters as well. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so of these, we love movies on this show, but of these LA-based movies, which one would you rank as the best? They are La La Land, Chinatown, The Big Lebowski, Mulholland Drive, weird one, Pulp Fiction, or Clueless.
So I'm going to get myself in some hot water with all the listeners on this one
Okay.
Okay.
because I'm going to go back to like my high school days, and Clueless was definitely very popular at that time
Yeah.
given the genre. So I'm going to go Clueless because of the timing of when it was introduced to me, but I would say Pulp Fiction after you watch it the first time. So when you watch it the second time, Pulp Fiction probably that's a pretty amazing movie.
It
Sure.
is.
Yeah.
Recently rewatched it. It's still really good.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'll agree with you on Clueless. That was also big when I was, I believe, maybe junior high at the time. But oh yeah, it is a classic.
Great.
Okay, next question. What was the first album that you bought or remember like listening to back in the day with as your favorite album?
Yeah, I love music, and Dad was a big Beatles fan.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think about when did I ever buy anything, but I don't think I ever bought one of the Beatles albums. So I'm going to have to go with U2 Rattle and Hum was probably the
Okay.
first one that I can remember purchasing.
Sure.
Great live album.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
They have that one with BB King, the song on there. That is a really good album.
I'm surprised you remember it, but yeah, I mean, it's going back in the archives for that one.
I love it. And also God Part 2. That song on that album is great. Sorry. I love music.
Michael is our resident music.
Okay, look up God Part 2. It's great. Last question here, David. What was the last movie you watched?
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm gonna answer in two parts.
Okay.
I'm on a plane a lot, obviously visiting different university campuses. So the last movie I watched on a plane was I love romantic comedies. It's just kind of a guilty pleasure, and
Great.
and so I watched Anyone But You.
Okay.
Really entertaining, funny kind of
Yeah.
love story. And then theater. I live close to the Simi Valley area, and that's where Ronald Reagan is from. The libraries here. There's a lot of things around Ronald Reagan, and so I actually went to the theater and watched Reagan, the movie that was just released.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that
okay.
just came out.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You know, it's neat because of the area that we're in. It means more here probably just because of
Of course.
affiliation, and yeah, it was a great movie.
Great
Very
answer.
nice. Okay. All right. Well, David Tuyo, CEO of University Credit Union in Los Angeles, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
All right. And for all of our listeners, please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever. You know how this works. And if you want to rate us, we'd love your feedback. And for those of you with questions or comments, please feel free to email me over at nchillingarian@cutimes.com, or you can email Michael at mogden@cutimes.com.
Also, I want to mention that we are putting together a very special Halloween episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. If you have spooky stories that you would like to share with us, we're going to be reading those stories on the episode later this month. Email us at those places Natasha just mentioned. So, thank you to our producer, Zach Nyeisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.